Hi there, my name is Melissa Lako. I am a board certified behavior analyst and I work for Julie Billiard School in Akron. This is part of a series of brief videos to help out students during this time of COVID-19 and distance learning. You may know me from JV Akron. You might be one of our JV parents who are looking for strategies. If you've stumbled upon me, hello, welcome. I did do a longer webinar on independence and motivation, and this the topic of this presentation, controlled choices, was something that I talked about in there, so it may sound familiar. And but this one goes into a little more detail. And also, if you're familiar with LLA therapy, which is also in Akron, I have written a blog post about this, so this may look a little familiar as well. So, all right, well, let's get going. So today's presentation is about cutting down on power struggles and problematic behavior, using controlled choices to do so. So, no, that dreaded word. So do you ever find yourself in a situation where you place a demand on your child? He or she says no, throws a tantrum, or flat out refuses to comply? Yes, of course. Happens in my household quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of this is going on during distance learning. It's new, it's weird, very unexpected. If you think about it, both you and your child were thrust into it with only a few days notice. I know it's been going on for a little while now, and you know, we're all still struggling with it. So my hope is that this will help out a little bit, and it's okay to be struggling with this. You are not alone. So no matter the age, kids are headstrong and independent. It's super infuriating, but it is normal and appropriate. I know. They have big feelings or emotions like adults and don't necessarily know how to regulate them. Um, Kids like to be in control, and most of the time, frankly, it's not doable. So, if they were in charge all the time, you could be having chocolate for breakfast or Paw Patrol all day, every day. No, thank you. So, what are controlled choices? They are choices that you give your child, and that you still control that desired outcome. Um, Basically, what it boils down to is you determine the outcome and your child decides how to get there. So, um, you're in charge of said situation. So, why controlled choices? So, first of all, who doesn't like choices? Kids like to feel some sort of control, and control choices give your kids that feeling, but ultimately, like I said, you are the one who still controls that outcome. So I suggest this to parents quite a bit, and I'm typically blunt. So she thinks she's in control, but she's really not. So, and if you think about it, kids are in control of throwing a tantrum or saying no. So why not use controlled choices to get ahead of them and give them some control before they consider seeking it in inappropriate ways? Another thing, controlled choices can be offered in many settings: meals, chores, getting dressed, routines, play, in the house or in school. You could give choices such as choosing what materials are used, what comes next, or in a school scenario, choosing who to sit next to on the bus. Um, they can be offered verbally if your child is higher functioning. Using the actual objects, you show a choice of two different things: a pen or a pencil, or pictures or symbols that represent these items. And a big time pro is that few to no resources are needed when offering choices. And my source is listed here on the bottom. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more of the research side, check it out. So two key words with controlled choices: power and engagement. You're giving your child the power to make the choice. And buy-in is really, really important, whether it's school, distance learning, anything like that. Um, they are more likely to buy in if they're engaged and it is something that they have decided to do. And the ability to make the choice can reduce problematic behavior. I mean, if you think about it, in an adult example, you'd rather have a flexible boss who lets you have some say or work at home or something like that versus a boss who just yells and barks orders all day, my way or the highway. No thanks. So, who can benefit? Students who engage in escape or avoidance behavior, sometimes escaping the task at hand or avoiding something unpleasant. Students with low level of engagement or motivation, and students with few interests. And most research has been done with students with disabilities, but it also has a positive effect on typically developing students. I have two typically developing kiddos at home, and I use controlled choices with my oldest all the time. So, why do controlled choices work? Offering the choices prevents negotiation, um, and that in turn will cut down on power struggles and the problematic behavior. Because it does, it boils down to two concrete things. It's not open to interpretation. It cuts down the power struggles because your child will feel empowered and he or she gets to decide. So at the end of the day, controlled choices are a win-win. Your kid gets to feel empowered, in control. And at the end of the day, you get that desired outcome. So, like I said, win-win. So sample choices in general, we can use this or that statements. So do you want to wear your boots or shoes today? How many? Would you like one cookie in your lunch or two? How to do it. So should we walk or hop to get to your classroom? So who will help? Would you like mom or dad to help you? What color? This is more applicable to our little kiddos, but do you want to wear your gray pants or your black pants to school today? So think about it. What are some that you could use in your house? And we'll also go into one specific to distance learning in a couple slides. So keys to success, you want your choices to be limited and reasonable. Um, and make sure you give them a limited set of choices. I personally recommend two. Um, it requires less creativity and brain power on your part. And then also, your kid can remember the two. They're not having to scroll through 5 different choices. Make sure that you are okay with those choices. Like, that's really big. And that they will still get the job done in the end. And make sure they're somewhat equivalent. So, for example, if you want your child to clean his or her room, you wouldn't want your choices to be, well, would you rather clean your room or play with your race cars? Pretty sure you know which one your child would go for every time. Always follow through. Always, always, always. Make sure those choices that you offer are ones that you can follow through on. Because like any method of behavior management, controlled choices aren't always foolproof. Kids are unpredictable. And the less follow through you have, the less likely those controlled choices are going to work in the future. Availability, that is super important. So avoid giving choices that aren't available. If they pick one that's unavailable, then what are you going to do? You're setting yourself up for some further problematic behaviors. And you have to have whatever it is handy and available. So good real life example. So when my daughter was 3, she went through a phase where she refused to use silverware. Conscious choice, she wanted some control. So we started using controlled choices for that. She was given the choice between choosing between 2 different colored forks. So it worked pretty well. So one day I didn't check to make sure that the red fork was in the drawer. So I gave her the choice of the red fork and the blue fork. Of course, which one did she choose? The red one. And it was nowhere to be found. So unbeknownst to me, it had been packed in a lunch bag. So not only was it dirty, but I had no idea where it was. So she was overtired. Cue that fantastic 3-year-old tantrum. Whoops, learned from that one. Um, Another key to success is avoiding giving empty threats, and also avoid being nitpicky. So really pick your battles. So for an example, really not a point in telling your child that he or she can't wear spots and stripes together before going to school, because quite honestly, as long as your child gets dressed, who really cares? So I do have a real life example. Before I really started working in schools, I worked in more of a clinical setting, and I was a supervisor. So I had a client who never wanted to sit in his seat. Definitely had the ability to, but he chose not to. So there were tantrums every day. So we did implement controlled choices. For example, do you want to sit at the red desk or the blue table? And he was more likely to sit when he was given the choice. So one day he was given his two choices. He picked a seat and sat down, which is great. Awesome. Exactly what we wanted. But he sat on his feet. The therapist who was working with him said, well, no, you need to sit with your feet on the floor before we start. So, of course, the client had a tantrum. So like I said, our end goal was to simply have him sit in his seat, and he did that. So, needless to say, the therapist picked an unnecessary battle. So, in this instance, who cares if he was sitting on his feet? At the end of the day, did it really matter? No, not at all. And if you think about it, some of us sit on our feet anyway. It wasn't like he was planking on the desk or anything. He was sitting down on his feet. Who cares? Great. So some keys to success for the distance learning: be flexible. It's really important right now, as I'm sure that you guys have found out. Definitely not the time to say my way or the highway. It's okay that you're not like your child's teacher. Nobody's expecting you to be. Please, please, please do not alter your relationship with your child. We just want your child to learn and get their practice in. So think about it. What's your end goal? Do we need perfection? No, not so much. Just pick your battles. I mean, really, who cares if the math is done in pen? And then also be creative. Out of the box is good, especially when we're in this weird, uncertain time with distance learning, global pandemic. Um, and our world has been turned upside down, so is theirs. So, we have to keep all that in mind too. So, as promised, some sample choices for distance learning. So, for the this or that, do you want to use your pencil or your cool marker to do math? Or do you want to type or write your assignment? So, with how many? Do you want to do 2 sentences or 3 sentences before your break? How to do it? Should we read the story or listen to the story? And then who will help? Would you like mom or dad to help you? And again, it is not foolproof. Nothing is foolproof when it comes to behavior. Kids are completely unpredictable. But they are certainly beneficial. And if they're used correctly with the consistent follow through, they are very effective. So thanks for watching. So if you have any questions, comments, need some specifics, don't hesitate to email. My email address is mlaco, Laco, at jbschool.org. And if there's anything you'd like to see more of, or a topic or something you're really struggling with, let me know. Thanks so much.